If we start at the cellular level with mitochondria generating ATP and trace the GI tract up the vagus nerve to the brain, we map the domain of this fire. Ayurvedic etiology states that all systemic disease originates from impaired metabolic fire, sarve roga api mandagni. Clinical practice frequently reduces the concept of Agni to localized gastric acid or the gross mechanical breakdown of food. The Hari Krishnan framework, published in 2026, defines Agni as the body's core metabolic intelligence, coordinating transformations across the entire system. This intelligence behaves like a scalar field in physics, providing a value at every point in space and time. Metabolic potential exists continuously throughout the body, defined by intensity rather than direction. This contrasts with the Western view of metabolism as discrete, compartmentalized organs. To apply this model, we must map the 13 anatomical subtypes of the field and diagnose its 4 pathological states, and identify the biological mechanisms of clinical modulation. Redefining Agni as a dynamic physical field establishes the framework required to identify physiological disruptions and model systemic resilience. We can visualize the spatial framework of this scalar field by dividing it into 3 distinct biological resolutions. At the macro level is Jataragni. This primary hub is located in the stomach and duodenum. Its mechanical role involves converting food into a homogeneous mixture, where nourishing essence is separated from waste. At the intermediary resolution, the field branches into the 5 Bhutignis, or elemental fires. The function of the Bhutignis corresponds directly to modern hepatic and intermediary metabolism. This level processes carbohydrates, fats, and proteins into forms biologically compatible with the host's constitution. The micro-resolution of the field consists of the 7 Dattvagnis, or tissue-specific fires. These cellular fires drive energy processing through the Krebs cycle and mitochondrial biogenesis. They manage a sequential nourishment cascade, synthesizing nutrients into plasma, blood, muscle, fat, bone, marrow, and reproductive tissue. Because the architecture is linked, an interruption in the central Jataragni hub causes a cascading failure through the Bhutagnis, eventually leading to cellular starvation at the tissue level. When we shift from structural anatomy to fluid dynamics, the scalar field appears as a continuous topological gradient. The baseline state is Samagni. This is a state of field coherence, characterized by efficient absorption and stable heart rate variability. Doshic perturbations, the accumulation of Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, distort the intensity and rhythm of this field. The first pathology, Mandagni, is a hypometabolic state driven by Kapha. The waveform is dampened, struggling to propagate. The heavy qualities of Kapha suppress the field, resulting in lethargy and incomplete nutrient breakdown. Tikshnagni is a Pitta-driven hypermetabolic state where the field is overamplified. This intense amplification causes rapid digestion and tissue burnout, incinerating nutrients before they can be absorbed. The third pathology is Vishagni, an erratic state driven by Vata. The waveform becomes asynchronous and unpredictable. Fluctuating vagal signaling creates an incoherent field, making the digestive capacity oscillate entirely without warning. All 3 incoherent states result in the same metabolic byproduct, ama. This sticky residue obstructs the srotus, or physiological channels, and degrades systemic resilience. Once the scalar field is perturbed and ama has formed, the architecture requires targeted pharmacological correction. Achieving samagmi involves 2 operational vectors: increasing field intensity and removing physical resistance. The first vector, dipana, focuses on kindling, increasing the amplitude of the Agni wave. Dipana herbs activate cellular AMPK pathways and promote mitochondrial biogenesis. However, amplifying a field that remains obstructed by ama exacerbates inflammation without improving nutrition. This necessitates the second vector, pachana, or clearing. Pachana acts as a solvent, breaking down the sticky barrier surrounding cells. It doesn't raise baseline fire intensity, it strictly dissolves accumulated ama. Clearing ama removes metabolic resistance, allowing the field's intensity to propagate freely. Dipana supplies the raw bioenergetic force, while Pachana restores the physical flow. Metabolic recovery depends on managing energy and resistance simultaneously. Stepping back from the cellular mechanics reveals an integrative framework connecting classical theory to modern systems biology. This conceptual flow diagram from the research literature maps the exact theoretical correlations. The scalar field model defines Agni as a continuous distributed metabolic intensity. The integrative approach panel links the gut-brain axis to neurotransmitters behaving as waves. Neurotransmitters behaving as quantum waves along the vagus nerve mirror the classical description of Agni balancing the body and mind. Classical pharmacology is translated here into measurable cellular respiration, linking Dipana herbs to mitochondrial function. We can measure these classical concepts today through diagnostic proxies like heart rate variability and infrared thermography, which map the body's digestive efficiency and metabolic capacity. Modeling Agni as a continuous bioenergetic scalar field creates the translational bridge required to apply holistic etiology to quantum biology, yielding a framework for total systemic resilience.